personable.
Never done that before.
What the hell was that? Listen here, lady. I don't.
Both of their faces were like.
I thought maybe I was the only one that heard that, but this meeting is being recorded. Well, thank you, lady.
I was like, whoa, this
I
is.
appreciate that.
Have I not been consenting the other times? Like,
yeah, the other times was it not recording? The hell?
I was so confused.
So weird, man. Technology is strange. God bless America. All right. Well, hashtag live if you're on live, and hashtag replay if you want some entertainment for the next 35 to 40 minutes.
So confused right now.
So
you think that's for like blind people or something? Because they might be on like a Zoom call and they don't realize they're being recorded because it says recording in the corner, and they're like, "Oh, they're not audio impaired, so they can at least hear that they're being recorded."
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Okay. Yes, that makes perfect sense. But how does a blind person know how do they get on Zoom? How do they?
I mean, they're not like. They're still able to go to Zoom meetings. They just would be like typing on a keyboard that has Braille on it. But they could still like be talking like we are just because they're blind, JB. God.
I mean, I'm not saying because you're blind that you can't be on Zoom. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I guess ignorantly, I was like, well, how do you even get to Zoom unless somebody does it for you? But okay, Braille and I've never seen a Braille.
I don't know any blind people. Can someone that knows as a blind person let me know?
I've never trained a blind. Well, Bernie's kind of blind. That's another story for another day. But I trained a deaf guy once.
Okay.
And he refused. He refused to use sign language other than this.
That's pretty funny.
I remember him well. He was giving me the middle finger all the time. Man.
Dude, did I tell you my dad got into a fight with a prisoner?
Your dad got in a fight with a prisoner?
Yes.
Okay.
There was a fight at the prison, and I guess this lady like got attacked. That was one of the correctional officers, and then like another dude got punched, and my dad came in there, and I guess it was just a pretty crazy ruckus, and some punches thrown, some.
Don't they have stun guns?
They maced the guy like 4 times, and my dad was just like, this dude was just a different level.
Was he on drugs?
I mean, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but it was just he got into a fight with this dude, and my dad actually feels bad for the guy. What's interesting, he's like, the guy was just kind of off his rocker a little bit, and yeah. So I was like, that's pretty crazy. Like,
okay.
While we were at work, while I was at work on Wednesday, my mom just called me and was like, "How's your day going?" And I was like, "Well, I guess better than yours because the way you're talking." And she's like, "Your dad's in an ambulance on the way to the emergency room." I was like, "What? Like, why would you not leave with that?" She's like, "How's your day going?" I was like, "Better than yours, I guess." And then she said that, and I was like, "Why wouldn't you leave with that?"
Was he okay?
Yeah, he has some bruises and maybe I'm sure he got a concussion, another Shuck head injury. That's all we need.
God. So
yeah,
my mom worked at Eastern State Hospital for 50.
I'm pretty sure that's where they're sending him.
52 years. Okay. Well, then this story will match up. So when I was maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 or something like that, she came home from work and her glasses were broke. Right.
Yeah.
And she kind of was like a little scruffed up on the face. And I was like, so, hey, I didn't say it like this, but, what happened, right? She's like, well, I got in a fight with a patient. And I said, well, what happened? So I got in a fight with a patient. Okay. Well, I mean, did you lose? She's like, you should have seen the other guy.
Dude.
Yeah. Jeez. So my mom is about 4'10", Okay.
4'10"?
She's about 4'10", right? And I'll never forget.
That's mind-blowing.
I don't remember how old I was, but I've been taller than her for like damn near my entire life. But I remember one time she grabs me and just puts me down on the ground. And I was like, everything that my aunt used to say about you and not beating up patients, but being able to handle yourself with patience is right. I mean, hey, hands off. I don't know where you developed this superhuman strength, but you've got it.
Dude, my mom literally probably gave me like one spanking my whole life. She was like, my little baby, oh my God. But in 6th grade, it was in 6th grade. So I was a pretty much damn near grown man at this point.
Okay.
And it was like half my life. So, but
oh, that's right. You're a young kid.
Yeah. So like my teacher is like, Austin's a great student, but he skips class all the time. And so I was in 6th grade and I just hated I would skip this class all the time. I don't know why.
How do you skip class in 6th grade?
Dude, that's what I guess I was just the mayor of the school, so I go talk to people and go talk to other people.
You're the mayor of everything. You're like, the most personable person I know.
They're like, what are you doing out of class, Austin? I'll be like, well, so this is what's going on. And then like 10 minutes will go by. And they'd be like, can you get back to class, Austin? And I go to another teacher and start talking to them or something. And then so I get out of class. And he was like, Austin always skips class. And so my mom was really mad. I was going to the nurse. I would go to the nurse and be like, I got a headache. I need to go to the nurse. I just hated the class. He was a whack-ass teacher, and I knew more about, I'm not going to say I knew more about history than him, but I would challenge him and be like, well, I actually read this in this thing called a book. I don't know if that's right, what you just said. And so I would skip this class all the time. My mom finds out that I'm skipping this class. Yeah. And she's pissed off. Shit.
I bet.
I've never seen my mom really mad. And she comes to school and the nurse is like, yeah, Austin's been in here like 40 times this year. And so she takes me home, and on the way home, she's yelling at me, and she pulls over the car and just starts whipping me.
I bet you didn't skip that class again, did you?
I literally was like a perfect child after that, because it literally scarred me for life, because it was my mom. She wasn't even hitting me that hard, but it was like enough that I was like, I hurt my mom. Like, it was more like she was like, this is hurting me more than it is you. And I was like,
oh God, I love that statement. I love this statement. I remember one time when I had my permit and I was driving my mom's car, and she just didn't like the way I drove. This is the last time I think. This is the last time I think, other than of recent, but this is the last time for at least 20 years that I drove with my mom in the car, because I'm driving and she smacks my arm, and I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm driving.
She's like, you're not driving right. I'm like, oh my God, Evan. If she ever watches this, she's probably going to refute all the things that we just.
This is an episode on mom abuse.
Right. God.
My mom's going to be like, damn. Now people are going to think I'm mean. Mom, right. You're not mean.
You're not mom. You're not mean, mom.
No, my mom was a sweetheart. My dad, he's kind of an asshole. His nickname's Bichard.
So. Well, he just beat up a prisoner. So
yeah, it's not a good thing though.
No, being in a prison on any level is not a good thing.
Mm-mm.
That's like
not even if you're a correctional officer.
That's like my nightmare.
Yes.
I mean,
there's nothing. No. I'm kind of indifferent on the correctional system. It's kind of bad, actually.
Yeah, it's really bad.
There's nothing correctional about it. That's why I'm
nothing.
Like, what's it called corrections?
What's
it called corrections?
There are more people in prison in the United States of America than in the total of all over the world. What does that say about us?
That we profit off of people being in prison?
I don't know. The taxpayers are the ones paying it.
Well, private prisons are like one of the biggest industries now. And they're literally who lobbies to keep weed legal or illegal on purpose, because that's a
Stupid.
petty crime they can arrest you for.
I mean, 80% of the prison population are there on drug-related charges. It's crazy.
Yep. I'm kind of under the school of drugs should be decriminalized. I know it sounds crazy, but like people are using them anyway. So it's like, obviously this is not working.
Well, okay. This is a good topic.
Prohibition doesn't work.
This is a good topic, and this can be related to just about anything. You know, use this analogy for nutrition if you like, but if you say that something's illegal, it has a stigma and an aura around it. So I'm not suggesting that if you legalize it that people will stop using it, but what I am suggesting is people would use it less.
I think so.
I do.
Kids definitely, because they're like, ooh, we're going to do something illegal. Like,
yeah.
Well, then they'll just be like, oh, this is just weed.
Right. Yeah.
Like tobacco, like that's exactly how it would be. It'd be like, this is.
More people have died from alcohol than damn near anything ever.
Cheeseburgers and alcohol.
You know, I mean, alcohol is not a good thing.
I know, and I like craft cocktails a lot. It sucks.
Well, I mean, just like anything can be used in moderation, but you know, every single day for like your entire life is not a good thing.
I don't know how Hemingway did that.
Well,
there's so many artists and authors who would just get hammered all the time. Freaking Van Gogh, he would like huff paint. Crazy ass.
Have to get high.
That's another level.
I mean, if you can't be silent by yourself with your thoughts because your thoughts torture you, I mean, that's something to be said, you know.
Yep. That's why I like a float tank, man. That shit's nuts.
It's the root of a problem. There is the fact that if you can't sit still with your thoughts, there's a problem. All right. So you've been doing some research on insulin resistance.
Yep.
What do you have for these people that are watching or may not be watching? I don't know. We don't give a shit if you watch or not. We're doing this for ourselves. And if you find it entertaining, then awesome.
There's a guy that was on Tom Billy's podcast recently, and his name's Ben Bick, and he was just talking about how insulin resistance is essentially the main contributor to most metabolic diseases that we have, which metabolic disease are like essentially everything while we die. And so that's like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, anything where your body is like dying, because pretty much what we're eating as a result of our nutrition. And some of it is obviously hereditary and genetic, but this guy's always talking about how Tom Billy, he's like, your DNA is not your destination. Like he says that all the time. And he's always trying to like find ways. He's like, you know what, this is, all right, you do have an insulin resistant issue, but now what? And that's like always what his thing is like, but now what? And you know, you kind of are similar to that as well. It's just like, all right, this is the circumstances where we are, but now what? Like you got to do something about it. Like you can't just keep letting it. And this guy, Ben Big, is like talking about how all of these diseases that we have are essentially contributed to insulin resistance cells. So like if it's heart disease, men are more likely to have heart disease because where fat stores. So men's fat stores in their abdomen, whereas like a woman fat like naturally goes to the hips or the butt, and it's because of childbearing. And this guy's explaining about how, like, literally, you know, the old saying, like, oh, you know, one will be like, oh, I ate that donut and went straight to my butt. He's like, that's literally true. Like, that is how our bodies store fat. And for men, it stores the fat around our organs. So as we continue to eat really poor diets, he talked about how this fat will store around your heart. And he's like, if you eat a really, 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 really glucose-driven diet, that you're going to really have issues. And he's like, so if you have diabetes, he's like, it's going to be because there's fat stored around your kidneys that are insulin resistant. And so, or not insulin resistant, I mean, so they're not insulin resistant. And so it just keeps on drawing fat more and more and more and more and more because it's like, I need to do this. So then it causes stress on your heart, causes stress on your liver, causes stress on your kidneys. And he was talking about how all of these are based upon where our body stores the fat. So he's like, that's literally why men are more likely to get heart disease or diabetes or all these diseases. Is he's like, because where they store the fat. And he was talking about how just it's so important that we control our glucose intake. He was like, that is the number one thing about why all of these. He's like, it doesn't matter if it's heart disease or diabetes. He's like, at the end of the day, it's all contributed to that. And he said, if you test someone who has heart disease, he's like, they're literally 100% going to have an issue with insulin. Or if they have diabetes, obviously it's going to be an issue with insulin. And I was just like, that's so crazy. Like, it's literally it all could be just one thing. And then he brings up Tom Billy was like, well, so, and he was like, talking about pecans. And I was like, pecans, and to contribute to even what you're saying, anything in moderation, like, is probably not so bad. But if you go like to where you're literally eating it out of control, and he's talking about this dessert he kept eating. And he was like, I kept getting this like mental fog. Like, and he's like, what am I eating that I've changed up in my diet that's causing this mental fog? And he was like, it's pecans. And he's like, it's just so weird. He's like, I was eating so many pecans that my brain literally had a fog. And he's like, if you eat too much of something that you're not like, even if it's something good, he's like, your body will literally start drawing a resistance to it. And it's just really interesting. It's so important to be so cautious about what we eat. And I was talking to Mike yesterday, and I was like, I can see a mental fog myself because at my new job, I'm eating less good food for lunch. I was like, I'm eating well when I'm at home. And before that, when I'm at work, there's not a lot of good options. And I was just like, it sucks. And I need to start just making my own meals. And I was like, because I can literally see it in my performance. And it's just so interesting to see how diet is contributed to so many functions of our performance, like whether it's
every function.
Yeah, literally every single one. Sleep.
So let's break down some of what you said so the general public can understand. So when you talk about insulin resistance, first we got to say, well, what the hell is insulin? Okay, well, insulin is released from your pancreas. Okay, so what happens is when you eat, everything is either in a negative feedback loop or a positive feedback loop. So when I say negative feedback loop, don't look at the word negative as it's a negative connotation, because it isn't, because that's the way your body works to create a balance. So when my blood sugar goes up, my body releases insulin so that my blood sugar goes back down, essentially. Okay, it's more complicated than that, but just as a pure, simple whatever. Now, a positive feedback loop is I eat, my blood sugar goes up, my body releases insulin, but my blood sugar does not go back down. Reason for that is because the receptors that this insulin innervates on has now gotten tired. Okay, again, using very general terms, has gotten tired, and now it's become resistant to the insulin. So therefore, it's not allowing the cells to receive it. And so therefore your blood sugar keeps going up and your insulin keeps going up.
Mm-hmm.
That's diabetes. That's type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is your body does not produce insulin. Okay. So that is a whole nother realm. Okay. Usually what they would call that would be juvenile diabetes is what they used to call it, but they can't call it that anymore because now we have kids that are getting type 2 diabetes.
What?
Yeah.
Like born with type 2?
No, you're not born with type. Type 2 is, don't let anybody fool you.
That's environmental.
It's environmental 100%.
Yeah.
It is the most curable. It is the most curable disease. Type 2 diabetes. So when you're eating foods that are high in sugar and you're eating foods that are heavily processed, this is where this comes into play. And now it's, we're finding out that insulin is intervening on a lot of different things. So insulin is both a anabolic hormone and a catabolic hormone. So anabolic meaning taking something small and making it larger. Okay. A lot of bodybuilders will use insulin during their processes to make their muscles bigger. Okay. And I've had several friends that I've had to, either inject them or make sure that they had rice cakes available once they do inject it, because your blood sugar will drop very, very heavily when you induce insulin, and you have to have something to make your blood sugar. Yeah, it's
bodybuilders.
Bodybuilders are the most creative population of people. Okay, they will figure out a way out of no way. Okay, so if we can take all these metabolic issues, the heart diseases, the and a lot of this is just inflammation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all inflammation, and we can really be able to monitor the foods that we're eating. It's really as simple as being able to eat foods that you can eat sanely, like you just provided the whole pecans thing. The guy was saying, well, I'm having this dessert, it may be organic for whatever, I mean, it doesn't matter, but they're constantly eating it over and over and over and over again. Their body is going to reject it at some point.
Like, oh, this is not good for you, stop. And he kept eating it.
Right. Now, what I just provided for you, and there's going to be somebody that, if does watch this, will fact check every single damn thing that I said. I tried to bring this down as low as I could, not being derisive in my speech, but just so that people could understand what's going on internally. And that's the way it works. You want everything to be on a negative feedback loop, because a positive feedback loop equals disease.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want disease, theoretically.
And that's like cortisol. Isn't cortisol? It's on the same function, right?
Well, so cortisol is a stress hormone. So
it's based off of a feedback system as well, right?
Everything's a feedback system. So your cortisol levels are all based upon stress. Okay, not all based upon stress. You can't say all or nothing on anything, but mostly is a stress hormone, a stress response. But if you had no cortisol, you'd be up shit's creek without a paddle as well. The same thing
goes. You would not be very aware.
Right, you wouldn't be alert, right? So you want enough, but you don't want too much. Again, back to your point about moderation. Same thing goes with estrogen in men. If you didn't have any estrogen as a man, I mean, again, you have to have a little bit. Too much is not good. So I think sometimes we demonize these things as, oh, I don't want any of that. Well,
cholesterol. Oh God, there's actually good.
Oh God, cholesterol. every single sex hormone that you have in your body is made from cholesterol. So if you didn't have any cholesterol, it means you're not producing hormones, which means your hormones are fucked up, and means you're probably not in a good mood. So. You got no testosterone, you got no estrogen, you got no progesterone.
Can you imagine just being like,
I mean,
all the time?
This is the reason why people get blood work done. But you know what, even on that topic of conversation is like, we've created these ranges, and I've been looking at blood work now. I've looked at my own, I've looked at several clients and friends and whatever, because I'm learning how to read them. But you have these ranges on there. Well, who the hell said that these ranges are what they are?
Probably a marketing firm.
Like cholesterol. My cholesterol is only supposed to be a total cholesterol of 200. Anything over 200 is high. Mine was like 223. And the guy was like, okay, well, what do you want to do about this? I said, nothing. Well, I don't understand. I don't want to do anything about it. When it gets to 350, then we'll talk.
Yeah.
But
it's literally marketing firms that just created medicine. And they're like, we'll say it.
And and
like where you just eat good.
And I have really smart clients and really smart people that I associate with that understand all this. But then you have the general public that only knows a little bit of information and then just goes off of it. It's like, well, I've got high cholesterol. Well, you don't need to be on drugs, okay? Because you can control it through your nutrition if you really wanted to.
That's the best medicine. It's good diet.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it goes back to that whole thing we've talked about is we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system.
Hmm. It's really sad, man.
It is. They want
It's
to
like
pump
actually
you.
tragically sad.
They want to pump you full of drugs. No, you don't want to be pumped full of drugs.
I think it's interesting. There's two different schools of medicine. It's like you can go to the osteopathic or you can go to like the whatever.
Allopathic versus naturopathic. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I feel like I would rather someone be take a natural approach first. Why would I not? Well, I would rather have
Yeah.
a doctor that's like that.
First,
That makes way
absolutely.
more sense.
I mean, when's the last time you went to the doctor? Like you, for instance, like, like the thing about it is no one's ever asked me, okay, when I went in when I was 20, okay, and I was depressed and I went into the doctor, she never asked me, well, what are you eating? Who are you hanging out with? How much are you working out? What's your environment like?
The
How much
environmental causes.
how much sleep are you getting? She didn't ask any of those damn questions. She said, okay, you don't feel good. Here's a script for Zoloft. And then bing, bang, boom, for 15 years, here I am taking this shit mindlessly, you know, until one day I said, this shit ain't doing anything for me anymore.
That's the thing, man. And that's what's crazy is people I know who take all these medications and like, you're still dealing with that. Like, isn't that supposed to help? And
But there's
I'm
a
not
place
saying it,
for it.
yeah, but I'm like, but like, what's the root of the cause? That the main thing this dude was talking about is he was talking about how we cut limbs off of issues instead of just cutting down the whole tree. And I'm like, dude, that's a great analogy. I was like, just chop that bitch down. Like, if you got an issue, there's probably other issues that you have you just might not realize yet, based off of your dietary and like nutrition fitness regimen.
There's a great book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. Okay. And the whole premise of the book is about traumatic experiences that people have gone through that causes their body to alter and causes them disease, pain. Here's an example. He was talking about a lady who was mugged, and the mug is that a word? A mugger? Um, it sounds like Muggle, like from the Harry Potter books. Anyways, he choked her, put her in a chokehold, right? For years and years and years and years, she had so much pain in her neck. So she forgot all about the being choked thing, right? She's like, that was kind of in the past. She never put two and two together. But in the tissues itself, that trauma, okay, happened. And the trauma was never released. She just suppressed it. But
Yeah.
it kept coming up in this little thing about her neck being in pain. And once she came to terms with the fact that, this happened to me, I let it go, etc., do all the work, internal work, never had any more pain.
That is weird.
It's because your body holds all that. And so people are walking around with traumatic experiences that they've experienced that they may not even consider traumatic, but they are because they've suppressed them. And they wonder why they're not at ease. They're at dis-ease. So
That's sad. That's
that book
sad
is
as shit,
called
honestly.
The Body Keeps the Score.
I'm definitely gonna check that out. I just like that analogy a lot. It's so true.
Right. I mean, it's no different than getting a car accident and messing your back up. Okay. Until you solve the root problem, your back's always going to hurt. But these things we don't really value. It's interesting. Here's another story, and I'll tell this, and then we'll move on. But there's a story that I heard about a police officer who was in a pretty severe shootout with someone, and he had to climb up a tree because they were shooting at him. And if he climbed up a tree, they couldn't see him. So basically, climbs up a tree, is there until backup can come. He's there for a couple hours. Okay. Backup comes, does the whatever. Okay. Why was it a couple hours? Don't know. Wasn't there. Okay. That's going to be a question. I don't know. Okay. I just know it was a couple hours because I talked to this guy. Anyways. So gets him out of the tree. He can't feel his hand for years and years, has to retire from the police department because he can't feel his hand and can't figure out why he can't feel his hand. Well, through some intensive therapy, comes out that while he was in the tree, he was holding onto his gun so hard, right? Naturally speaking, because you got somebody over here that potentially is going to shoot at you. It's holding on to it. There's a psychological technique that has to do with the eye movement that gets your body basically to relax and be able to recall traumatic events in your life and to make peace with them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Makes peace with the event, lets it go, hand doesn't hurt anymore. And people are going to listen to this and think, well, that's not true. It's true. You can believe it. You can choose to believe it, or you can choose not to believe it. You can make things a lot more complicated than they are. But I promise you, that's a true story.
Woo! That's crazy. Our cells are like insane. Is it like insane how intelligent they are?
Your body basically, your brain keeps a Rolodex of every single thing that's ever happened to you. And if it won't let it go, it will keep replicating itself. You know, it's like the person that gets in the relationship with the bad, woman or man, not bad person. That's a judgment, but like, bad relationship. They keep going from bad relationship to bad relationship to bad relationship. And you're kind of like, okay, well, hey, you keep replaying the same story over and over and over and over again. But you're blaming the world for that, but yet you're the one participating in it. At what point, in what juncture do you take responsibility for it and say, no more? Yeah. You know what? Listen, the past is the past. I'm going to make amends with myself, have some grace for myself, make peace with whatever the hell it is I need to make peace with. And I'm not going to replicate this anymore. Chaos is not going to be my, peace. It's these people that, and I have compassion for these people because I can see it, but it's like, they view chaos as being peace, whereas I would, and you would view the chaos as being just that chaos. They're not the same.
I mean, I in life, I used to try to avoid that. And when you try to avoid that chaos, it really does. Your brain will literally just keep it focused. Right. And I've really found that if you just dive headfirst into conflict and the dragon, conquering the dragon, you just go ahead and get it over with. It literally it's gone. You're like, oh, dude, I do it with my podcast. There's stuff I'll work on, and I'm like, I need to drop this, and then I won't drop it. And then I'll be sitting, I'll be like, man, why am I stressed out right now? I'm like, just need to do some shit. I'm like, why did I not do that? It's so avoidable. And there's so many circumstances that, it's obviously that's a small example, but it's just like, in life, it's like, there's just so many things that we're afraid to confront that if we would just go ahead and do it, it's like, it would just make life a lot easier. So you're making your life harder by not just getting that shit over with. You know what I mean? Not just kicking its ass and being like, all right, we're done with it. It sucked. It's over. Let's not drag this shit out.
The obstacle is the way.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about chaos. You brought up Tupac before we hopped on here. So with our time remaining. So yesterday, he brings something to my attention that I was unaware of. That apparently Sean P. Diddy Combs, shout out Sean if you're out there, Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Buffgandhi, Diddy Pop, whatever your name is. I don't like you. I've never liked you, even though I have bought your CDs before, but kind of shows what kind of person I am. But to not like somebody but still contribute to their pocketbook. Anyhow, that apparently Sean Combs owns this Essentia water company, right? That I drink often. Didn't know that. Had no idea. No clue. Well, so it's well known that Mr. P. Diddy Combs, uh, essentially, okay, not directly, but
Since yeah,
yeah, but essentially, not directly, but indirectly, had Tupac Shakur assassinated. Okay, so I've done a lot of research on this because Tupac is an extreme interest of mine. All right, he's been dead. Will be 25 years, September the 13th.
that's nuts.
So, who killed Tupac? Well, we know who killed him. We know who pulled the trigger and shot him. That was Orlando Anderson. Now, Orlando Anderson is deceased. So, we all know this. But it is said that Mr. Combs is the one that fronted the money to have this done. But there was that story between Tupac and Biggie's murders are so complicated but so interesting in how they're all intertwined with each other.
Yeah.
And it's very sad because everyone always asks me, well, what would have happened if neither one or both of those guys didn't die? You know, what would they have been? And I don't know in the case of Biggie what he would have been, but I can tell you that Tupac probably would have been president by now.
He probably would have really been a politician for real.
Probably, or just a hugely successful actor.
Yeah,
he probably wouldn't have messed around with music anymore, because he's just more talented than just music. But
didn't he get invited to like the Juilliard School of like arts or something?
So he went to the Baltimore School of Performing Arts. So he was an extremely talented artist.
Mm-hmm.
And so he lived in Baltimore, but then they had to move from Baltimore to Marin City, California, which is right outside of Oakland. You know, his mom was on drugs and she was, you know, she was in prison while she was pregnant with him. She was a Black Panther and strong woman, obviously. She's now dead as well. But so they moved to California. He found rap music, and the rest is history. So, but
no drinking since y'all.
No drinking Essentia from me. I can't get on board with it. You know,
I was literally slamming medicine balls. I was like, hey, you know that's the official water of the guy that killed your favorite rapper, right?
No one has profited more on the deaths of those two young guys than him.
For real, though.
I mean, he profited so much from that. They got Tupac out of the way, and then Biggie was doing his thing for 6 months, and then he gets killed. You know, he was multi-platinum artist.
I'm sure, obviously, P. Diddy is still making money off that.
Oh God, yes.
Because he owns the catalog. I'm pretty sure of Diddy's.
He owns
Biggie's, but Biggie's.
He owns Biggie's catalog. Yeah, I mean.
So anytime you hear any Biggie,
Tupac and Biggie are still two of the top artists on Spotify.
Mm-hmm. That totally makes sense.
I mean, they're basically the rap version of Elvis.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's just because the Beatles aren't dead yet.
Well, I mean, John Lennon, and George Harrison are dead. Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney is still alive.
Paul's still kicking it, making albums.
Yeah,
I'm sure Ringo is too, but
Ringo's got a cool look. I like Ringo. Ringo's my favorite Beatle.
Said no one ever.
What are you talking about? He's a drummer. Anyways, all right. Tell these
drummer.
People, yeah, man, drummers are cool.
Those are always the wild card.
They make the drum. I like drums. Of course, I love guitar. Nothing tops guitar, but the drums are second.
Saxophone.
Hey, if you can play a saxophone, I can't play shit.
I can't either. I
can play these guns. All right. You got anything you want to tell these people before we hop off here?
I'm about to go to JB's gym.
He's coming to work out.
Yep.
Coming to work out.
Drink some coffee real quick and then see you soon.
All right.
Dude,
Well,
I'm feeling low energy for real. I'm not gonna lie because I haven't worked out yet. Stupid.
Well,
Usually all like,
get your damn ass in here and work out.
I know. Probably also because I didn't go to bed till like 2 o'clock. And me and Mike ate cookout last night.
Cookout. What's cookout?
Yeah. You never had cookout?
No.
It's honestly pretty good fast food. It's the only fast food I would be like, yeah, let's do it.
Oh, cookout. Oh, the burger place over there off of Harrisburg Road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I got you.
It's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
But it's not good for you.
That's probably why you're foggy, man. Your
It is.
insulin resistance because you ate like shit.
Yeah. We did go to Renata's Kitchen though. That place is pretty good. Mike's gonna start training that lady. She's a
Is
pretty
he?
cool little spot. Yeah.
Renata.
I've
Interesting.
never heard that name, I'm not gonna lie.
Nor has many people. All right, brother. Well, I guess I'll see you soon. The rest of you people, if you've watched, I won't be seeing you, but love you anyway. Woo!